Hello everyone, let's continue with the previous video that we talked about, Kabbalah and Self-Knowledge, and Inner Journey. We say that we will talk about Jacob's Ladder, the Life Tree. The human body seeks spiritual growth. Awareness. The mention of Jacob's Ladder of Existence in connection with Kabbalah suggests an allusion to mystical and esoteric concepts present in this tradition. Jacob's Ladder is a biblical image from the Old Testament that can be interpreted in many ways, and its use in Kabbalah often carries deep symbolic meanings. The expression, Jacob's Ladder, has biblical origins, referring to an event described in the Old Testament, in the book of Genesis, chapter 28, verses 10 to 19. In this passage, Jacob, son of Isaac, dreams of a ladder that it stretches from earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending along it. Jacob's ladder symbolizes the connection between the divine and the earthly, serving as a means of communication between God and human beings. The event is interpreted in several ways, one of them being the idea that the ladder represents the possibility of access to the divine presence. In addition to the religious meaning, the expression, Jacob's Ladder, can also be used more broadly to describe any means or method that connects two extremes, whether in a spiritual or metaphorical sense. In the context of esoteric work, symbolism can be more informative than direct approaches to metaphysics. In many esoteric traditions, symbols are considered a form of language that transcends literal communication. Each symbol can contain deep, multifaceted meanings, allowing for a richer, more subjective understanding. The allusion to poetic implication suggests that symbolism is often expressed in a poetic and artistic way. This approach can evoke emotional responses and spark the imagination, leading to intuitive insights and subjective experiences. The idea is that, by engaging the imagination, symbolism can open doors to deeper, more personal understandings. The imaginative mind can capture nuances and perceptions that may not be accessible through a strictly rational approach. While metaphysics often seeks a logical and rational understanding of the world, symbolism often operates in a more subjective and nonlinear sphere. This can allow for a more holistic and intuitive understanding of esoteric truths. It is important to note that this approach can vary between different esoteric traditions, and the specific interpretation will depend on the cultural, religious, and philosophical context involved.
The text of creation described in the book of Genesis in the Bible, especially in the first chapters, is often interpreted in an allegorical way. Allegory is a form of expression in which symbolic elements are used to convey a deeper message or meaning beyond what is explicitly stated. In the allegorical interpretation of creation in Genesis, several scholars and theologians seek more symbolic and universal meanings. Rather than understanding the days of creation literally, the allegorical interpretation often suggests that these days represent symbolic stages or periods, not necessarily equivalent to 24-hour periods. The figure of Adam and Eve can be interpreted not only as historical individuals, but also as archetypes representative of humanity as a whole. Their stories may contain symbolic messages about the human condition, fall, and redemption. The Garden of Eden can be seen as a symbolic space representing the original harmony between God, nature, and man, before the fall. The tree can be interpreted as a symbol of free will or the ability to make moral choices, with the caveat that some choices may have consequences. Allegorical interpretation allows for a more symbolic and spiritual approach to the text, seeking deeper and more universal meanings that go beyond literal reading. This approach is commonly found in broader theological and philosophical traditions, where allegory is valued as a tool for spiritual and moral understanding. An interpretation that goes beyond the literal reading of the creation description, possibly indicating that the creation account as described in Genesis in the Bible is not considered a physical or historical account that occurred in a short space of time. This may be in line with allegorical or symbolic interpretations of the Genesis reading, in which the days of creation are not seen as 24-hour periods, but rather as symbolic representations of phases or stages in creation. These interpretations often seek a more metaphorical and spiritual understanding of the events described. The idea that, in the text of creation, the initial description does not include a physical form or substance, much like the concept of a temple before the plans are even drawn or the first stone is laid. This interpretation may be consistent with the idea that the initial creation text in Genesis does not refer to a physical process in the traditional sense, but may be interpreted in a more symbolic or spiritual way. Emphasis can be placed on creation as a divine act that goes beyond human temporal and physical limitations. These interpretations, often allegorical or metaphorical, are common across different religious and philosophical traditions. They seek to extract deeper and more universal meanings from the creation narrative, going beyond a strictly literal interpretation. In the Christian tradition, the creation text in Genesis includes a description of the Garden of Eden, often associated with paradise. This is an initial state of harmony and perfection before sin enters. Paradise can be seen as a stage of formation or creation in which everything is in divine order. The idea that, in paradise, ideas manifest themselves as pure form and the Garden of Eden is symbolized as a perfect image of a landscape, with plants and animals in their most primitive state. This interpretation can be associated with concepts of perfection, harmony, and purity present in some religious and philosophical traditions. The idea of a spiritual Adam who divides himself into sister souls, representing humanity on a psychological level, can be linked to esoteric concepts that explore the deeper dimensions of existence and the soul. The division into soulmates, male and female, is a theme that can be found in several esoteric and mystical traditions. This interpretation often highlights the search for reunification or harmony between soulmates, symbolizing the search for completeness and balance. This type of concept is found in several spiritual traditions that emphasize the soul's journey and development. In more symbolic interpretations, the differentiation between Adam, male, and Eve, female, is seen as a representation of duality and the diversification of existence. This departure from the source can be understood as a journey from unity to multiplicity, with creation taking on more diverse and complex forms. The text of Adam and Eve is often interpreted as an allegory that addresses deeper themes, such as the fall from original unity to duality and the experience of earthly life. The separation between Adam and Eve can be seen as a metaphor for the human journey, involving challenges, spiritual growth, and the search for reunification. The idea of archangelic beings remaining as formless spirits suggests a more abstract and spiritual existence. These beings can be seen as higher entities in the celestial realm. The distinction between archangelic beings and angels, with angels being permitted to dwell in paradise, suggests different categories or levels of celestial beings. Paradise is often considered a state of divine perfection. This approach may be aligned with belief systems that seek to describe the hierarchy and nature of spiritual beings in a specific cosmology. These interpretations can vary widely between different spiritual and philosophical traditions. The statement highlights the distinction between different levels of manifestation in the presented cosmology or worldview. It seems to suggest that the physical manifestation of minerals, plants, and animals is confined to what you describe as the lower world of materiality. This idea can be interpreted in different ways, depending on the philosophical, spiritual, or religious context. Here are some possible interpretations. The distinction between the lower world of materiality and other spheres may reflect a dualistic view, where spirituality is considered higher than materiality. This is common across several philosophical and religious traditions. It may represent a hierarchical view of creation, where different life forms occupy different levels or planes. This may be in line with belief systems that see spiritual evolution as a movement towards transcending materiality. The idea that physical manifestation is confined may suggest a view of materiality as limited or restricted in comparison to higher states of existence. It is important to note that these interpretations can vary widely based on cultural, spiritual, and philosophical context. In Kabbalah, Jacob's ladder is often associated with spiritual ascension and the connection between the physical and spiritual worlds. Each rung of the ladder represents a stage or level of consciousness, and the beings along that ladder are seen as different manifestations of divinity. The idea of a connected chain of beings suggests an interconnection between all elements of existence, from the highest to the lowest realms. This interconnection is a recurring theme in Kabbalah, where the search for divine unity and understanding the cosmic structure are fundamental. The reference to 4 distinct universes, corresponding to the 4 divine elements, suggests an approach to cosmology that is aligned with certain esoteric and mystical traditions, including Kabbalah. The idea of the 4 elements is an ancient conception that dates back to ancient Greek philosophy and was later incorporated into various esoteric and religious traditions. In Kabbalah and some mystical traditions, the 4 elements are often associated with the 4 worlds or planes of existence. Each world represents a different dimension of creation, and elements are used as symbols to express specific characteristics of those dimensions. The 4 divine elements and the corresponding universes can be presented in the following way, in a Kabbalistic interpretation. World of Atziluth. It represents the highest and most spiritual world. It is associated with the fire element, symbolizing divine light and spiritual energy. Bria's world. It refers to the creative world and is associated with the water element. It represents the formation of forms and structures in divine creation. World of Yetzirah. This world is associated with the air element and represents the world of formation, where forms and patterns begin to manifest. World of Asaya. It represents the lowest and most material world, associated with the earth element. This is the world of physical action and tangible manifestation. This division into 4 worlds and elements is a way of understanding the complexity of existence and the progression of creation from the most spiritual to the most material spheres. The notion that the lower section of a higher realm is parallel to the upper section of a lower world highlights the interconnectedness and continuity between these planes. One can interpret this as a symbolic representation of the harmony and correspondence between the different dimensions of creation. This approach suggests that although these realms may appear separate in nature, there is a symbiotic relationship between them, where the influence of one plane directly affects the other. This reflects the belief that all things are interconnected and that understanding and spiritual influence transcend apparent barriers. The connection between the grosser levels of the world of formation and the more subtle levels of the physical universe suggests a correlation between different planes or dimensions of existence. This approach is common in esoteric traditions, where different levels of reality are believed to be intertwined and influence each other. In Kabbalah and other esoteric philosophies, the idea that the grosser levels of a higher realm are related to the subtler levels of the physical universe may represent a view of the interconnection between the spiritual and material spheres. This interrelationship suggests that energies or influences that manifest on higher planes have reflections or correspondences on lower planes. Likewise, what occurs on the subtler planes of the physical universe can have implications on the grosser planes of the world of formation. This vision can be expressed in terms of symbolic correspondences, where each plane reflects specific aspects of global reality. Understanding these correspondences is often considered a key to deeper understanding of the nature of creation and the spiritual journey. His description highlights the interconnection between different levels or regions of experience, including dreams, apparitions, psychic phenomena, the psychological and spiritual realms. This approach reflects a holistic understanding that transcends conventional divisions between the psychic, the spiritual, and the experiential. Some esoteric and philosophical interpretations suggest that psychic phenomena, such as dreams and apparitions, occupy a marginal region that exists between the conscious and the unconscious, between the material and the spiritual. This marginal area is often seen as fertile ground for experiences that transcend conventional categories. The idea that the higher sections of the psychological realm interpenetrate the lower regions of the spiritual highlights the interconnection between the human psyche and the spiritual realm. It may suggest that higher psychological experience has a direct influence on or is intertwined with deeper spiritual dimensions. These conceptions often align with esoteric traditions that value integration and holistic understanding of the human experience, recognizing that the psyche, the spiritual, and the transcendental are interconnected. A Kabbalistic view of existence as a hierarchy of worlds, each based on the Sephirotic model of the first of them. In Kabbalah, the Sefirot are the divine emanations that form the tree of life, a symbolic map of the creation and structure of the universe. Each Sephira represents a divine quality or a specific emanation of divine energy, and the interrelationship between them forms the different planes or worlds of existence. The Kabbalistic hierarchy of worlds often follows a threefold structure composed of the worlds of Atziluth, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asaya, which are associated with different aspects of creation. Atziluth represents the world of emanation, where the Sefirot manifest themselves in their original purity, without any trace of materiality. It is associated with the fire element. Bria, it is the world of creation, where divinity begins to manifest itself in the form of more defined structures and forms. It is associated with the water element. Yetzirah, it is the world of formation, where forms and patterns develop most fully. It is associated with the element air. Asaya represents the world of action or material, where creation manifests itself physically. It is associated with the earth element. Vertical tree. It represents the vertical symbolic structure often associated with the tree of life in Kabbalah. Divine penetrating each level. It indicates that the tree serves as a channel or path for the divine to reach and influence each level or sphere of existence. This view suggests an understanding of creation as a series of interconnected levels, with the tree of life functioning as the medium through which divine influence flows. The symbolism of the tree is rich in meaning, representing not only the connection between the divine and the earthly, but also the intricate structure of creation itself. Some relevant points. Special function of humanity. It indicates that, according to this scheme, humanity performs a unique and significant function. Conscious organism. It describes humanity as a conscious organism, suggesting a collective unity with a shared consciousness. Perception of the absolute. It highlights that the function of humanity is to perceive or understand the absolute, which can refer to an ultimate reality, divinity, or fundamental principle. This view is aligned with various philosophical, spiritual, and religious traditions that assign humanity a special role in the search for knowledge, meaning, and deeper understanding of existence. Adam Kadmon refers to an archetypal figure associated with Kabbalah. It is often considered a cosmic being or primordial human archetype. Fall of the Garden of Eden. It alludes to the biblical account in which Adam and Eve, the first humans, fall from the paradisiacal state of the Garden of Eden after disobeying God. Fur coats. It symbolizes the clothing that Adam and Eve wore after the fall, often interpreted as a symbol of incarnation or entry into materiality. Incarnation. It refers to the process of taking on physical or material form, indicating that humanity, after the fall, experienced a denser manifestation. These symbols are commonly interpreted in mystical traditions as representations of spiritual processes and transformations. The idea of falling and putting on fur coats is often understood as a change from the spiritual state to the material state, implying the experience of life in physical form. Elevation of the physical world. It suggests the idea of transcending purely material or physical concerns. Means of evolution. Indicates that there are specific methods or development processes that can be used for this elevation. Search for self-realization. It highlights the ultimate goal as personal fulfillment, which may involve a deeper understanding of self, life purpose, or a heightened state of consciousness. This perspective is consistent with many spiritual traditions and philosophies that emphasize the importance of inner searching, spiritual growth, and transcending the perceived limitations of the physical world. Experience each level of existence. It implies a journey through the different planes or dimensions of existence. Contemplating God through human perception. It refers to the ultimate purpose, suggesting that human experience is a means for God to contemplate himself through human consciousness. Divine self-knowledge. It indicates a quest for divine self-knowledge, where human experience is seen as a vehicle for God to know himself. Access to four worlds. It implies that human beings have the ability to experience and understand the four worlds mentioned above. Differentiation from other creatures. It suggests that this ability is unique to humanity, marking a distinction between humans and other creatures. This perspective can be aligned with esoteric conceptions or philosophies that emphasize humanity's unique role in cosmology and the spiritual quest. Men and women as microcosm. It indicates that both men and women are considered small-scale representations of the universe or total existence. Containment of the worlds internally. It suggests that individuals carry within themselves the elements or principles of the worlds, possibly referring to the four worlds mentioned previously. Ability to reach beyond material reality. It implies that due to this microcosmic nature, individuals have the ability to transcend material reality. This Kabbalistic perspective highlights the idea that spiritual understanding and practice can allow human beings to access higher levels of existence beyond the material world. Penetrate the tiniest of particles. Highlights the ability to understand the most fundamental elements of matter, possibly referring to subatomic levels. Reach the farthest galaxies. Indicates the ability to explore and understand the vastness of the universe, from the smallest to the largest scales. Glimpse paradise and the seven heavens. Suggests the ability to contemplate or understand spiritual and transcendent dimensions. This view reflects a broad perspective on the human mind, highlighting its ability to explore the mysteries of the cosmos while also engaging in higher spiritual reflections. Study of humanity at collective and individual levels. It indicates that both the understanding of collective dynamics and individual experiences are relevant in the Kabbalistic context. Development as an agent of the Absolute. It refers to the idea that the study and understanding of humanity contributes to personal and collective development as agents of the Absolute, possibly alluding to the active role in achieving divine purpose. This view is in line with the Kabbalistic emphasis on the spiritual journey, understanding the Sephirot, divine aspects, and active participation in divine work. Correspondence between above and below. It indicates that what happens at higher levels of existence has a correspondence or reflection at the lower level, and vice versa. Note for understanding. It suggests that understanding what occurs in the higher realms can be gained by observing what happens in the lower realms. Operating under the same principles. It highlights that both the superior and inferior worlds follow the same fundamental principles or laws. This view aligns with the idea that there is an underlying unity to existence, and understanding patterns at one level can provide insights into other levels. So guys, we're done with this part, let's continue in the next video. Thank you for watching. If possible, provide your gratitude by giving a like, subscribe if you are not subscribed, and see you next time. May the strength of the Kabbalah be with everyone.